sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Pastor Bener Raimundo. Una, I would like to appreciate yung itong God's Grand Story mini presentation. I find it very strategic. Yung pinaiksi siya. Kasi unang-una, ako na Old Testament teacher na for many years. Sa simula, I find it hard na i-cut ito. Kasi may sa back of my mind, I'm thinking, all of the 77s are important. Parang meron kang panghihinayang na ma-miss yung information na kailangan nilang malaman. But the way Pastor Gil presented it, pwede mo naman palang i-insert yung information without giving the steps yung 77, ano? So, ako, as a pastor, I find it hard to edit my sermon into concise message. Parang feeling ko lagi, mahalaga to, importante to. Pero ngayon sa presentation ni Pastor Gil, meron talagang mga tao magaling mag-edit. Tapos pag pinresent, ganun din naman pala yung impact. Mas maganda pa nga kasi concise siya. Kaya ako personally, I highly recommend yung ginawang shortening ng 77 into 40 steps na lang. So, masarap ituro ito, Pastor Gil, kasi mas concise siya. Sa mga tao, mas madadalian sila. So, yun. I appreciate it po. Thank you.
Para sa akin din po, very encouraging. Kasi when I first attended the walk through the Old Testament, then we came back, and then we presented the 77 storylines. Our members were amazed because we were able to present it under a time limit. But they also told me, Pastor, parang ang hirap naman pala niyan. Because it's 77 storylines with action. So, parang, just like what I said a while ago, it seems to be very overwhelming, intimidating, and reserved for special people only who have sharp memory. So, oftentimes members, they excuse themselves. We cannot memorize that so many lines anymore. As a matter of fact, that's what they say when you ask for memory verse or scripture memory. But these 40 lines would be an encouragement to them that they can say, that I can learn, that I can memorize, and that I can recite, and I can pass it to others. So para sa akin bilang teacher, parang it's a good news that I can say, it's not reserved for some elite persons. Everybody can learn this. It's not too difficult. Kumbaga sa level of difficulty, hindi ito to the max. Medyo nasa middle lang. We can learn it and we can pass it on. So para sa akin yan.
Well, yeah, I like this too. Ang daming mga adjustments that are really helpful. The only thing that stands out to me, and I don't know kung pwede i-adjust ito, the Samuel, because it's by columns now, if it's possible, Samuel could slide back into the third column because it fits time-wise. And also, if prophets could slide into the last column, but you'd have to delete something. But that's, to me, it just seems more natural if it could be those could be adjusted. But I don't know.
Ako naman, I've taught the walk through the OT even to high school students when I was working as a school chaplain. But anyway, what I appreciated about the 40 lines now is that, I mean, in public speaking, the more concise it is, the more effective. Yeah, you're using the information that you believe that you need to share so that you can effectively communicate it very well. So, very minimal, mas minimal siya, mas okay siya. So that's a secret in public speaking. And I think moving towards from 77 to 40 steps is better. And I'm excited how this can really catch fire when we begin to teach it again. And I agree that all those steps taken out, you can use them in the middle naman eh. So great job for Pastor Hill.
I teach kids in the book, so our actions are more animated than the regular walk through the Old Testament. But I think this one is very good for the children because we can still put in the animated actions. Siguro my only suggestion would be that for the teachers, for the trainers and the teachers, they should also know the original 77 because it's important when they teach the 40 storylines. That's all.
Siguro magiging very interesting if we will teach tong 40 storylines rather than the 77. Ang nakita ko, why? Because remember, there are 39 books in the Old Testament. And the 39 books is the God's grand story plus Christ. Kaya naging 40.
Actually, I'm just a new teacher. I recently joined the teachers training last October. And I conducted a seminar, the 77 storylines, just recently in my home church. And we cut, parang series lang, hindi kasi pinayagan na isang araw. So, ginawa yung parang series. So, I observed that it's good that the story pinaiksi. At saka yung mga numbers, mga ganun. Kasi may mga matanda na, hindi na makakaganon eh, no? Tapos yung mga ganyan-ganyan, sayaw na yun, hindi na sila gumagalaw eh. So, mas maganda yun, pinaiksi at saka parang convenient na para sa mga oldies. Of course, sa mga mas bata, pwede rin yung mas magaling 77. No, para sa akin, depende sa audience na tinuturuan mo. Ganon yun. Thank you po.
Unlike many of you who have been to Bible school and are pastors, I'm in the marketplace and I do training. When I was doing this morning, I just realized how concise and sequential it is. I've never viewed the Old Testament that way, although I've read the Bible maybe once or twice in my life, the whole Bible. Yung sequence now helps me put together the Old Testament and the story up to Jesus Christ. So if I'm talking to an unbeliever, an unbeliever and somebody asks me, ano ba yung sabi ng Bible? Ano ba yung Old Testament? This kind of sequence helps me a lot. I'm not familiar with the 77, but just given this morning, I appreciate the gestures. Yung gestures, yung hand signals, helps me put the sequence together. And it's so concise that it can be used even for unbelievers, which I think is why we're here. Not just to fellowship with believers, but to make sure that the gospel is also heard by unbelievers. So, in my point of view, it's a very good tool that can be used not only in church but also in the marketplace. Yan.
Sige. Actually, I've heard OT training back in ISOT pa, nung Kaliraya venue pa. And I've been avoiding this kasi back in those days, before you join walkthrough, ito muna yung entry level mo. So that's why I kept on avoiding it. Particularly dahil nga sa madaming too much gesture for me kasi ayoko talaga ng ganon-ganon. But surprisingly, it only took Pastor Hill about a little over 2 hours, I think, to teach this material. Plus shorter, talagang really shorter. No? I only have the problem of memorizing each pillar or column, the details of each column. Pero more or less I've been anticipating yung next gesture and everything. No? Then I was asking Pastor Bener kasi siya yung nasa Old Covenant ng OT. Just kidding. Pastor, yung Israel scattered and then Judah exiled and then returned. No? I was asking him if the gesture would be this high for Israel ba dito? Israel, and then Judah. Judah is up now. I was supposed to recommend to him na I think it's better geographically if Israel would be up high, then scatter, and then Judah is a bit low kasi southern, and then exiled. So yeah, geographically, so that we can introduce to the participants yung proper position niya geographically. Yeah. Just lang, a little lower compared to the old gesture position. Yeah.
I would just like to say that I approve both the old and the new versions. Because, well, first of all, the old one, it's very suitable for long-time Christians, like in terms of its depth. So, approve ako pa rin dun sa I'm still approving on the 77 original. At the same time, the benefits for the 40th, I noticed that 99% of the 40 storylines, it's very friendly to beginners, especially to unbelievers, to soon-to-be Christians. Kasi, excluding Zerubbabel, everyone else is recognizable, actually. And pero yes, in terms of flow, there is no obvious break compared to the original. So with some just fine-tuning in the actions, everything else is actually pretty good already for the new version. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. APL, from the point of view of APL naman, so going back to my own story, I've been telling stories of the Bible since I was like 12 years old. And I was able to share the gospel because of this story. And I have shared the stories even to my nieces who are ages 6 and 8, which is why they truly love the Lord. So I think in schools, because I have my own training center right now, what I can do is, during breaks for me, of course, this is my own personal, application of OT. I took this in 2006 in Tagaytay. I think the best way to teach is, because I'm a workplace missionary also, is to share this story during break times. I don't know if you're doing this, because I build relationship with my students because we mentor for life. Whenever they have a story to say, I always get in with a story in the Bible. Because there's nothing new. Nothing that's happening on earth is new. The story in the Bible is the same story we are experiencing nowadays. Like what Pastor has said earlier, that really caught my attention. He said something like this: there's an idol. The idol doesn't represent only things, material possessions. These are the things inside our hearts. So some of my students would come up to me and tell me their problem here and there. And that's the focal point, pivotal point where I get to share Jesus. I tell a story and I share Jesus, which is why at Paysetters, all of our students, if they're non-Christians, on day one, because I interview them, they pray to receive Jesus Christ in their hearts. So I think that's how we could integrate this OT in a workplace and in different schools where we're teaching. It's really listening to students, listening to their stories, and then incorporate this story. You know what? Perhaps when you're doing a conversation with them, perhaps you would say, you know what, the same thing, the same story happened back many years ago. Would you mind if I shared to you this story? And they would listen, and then right then and there you can share the gospel. That's my point of view.